Hey, so this time this is going to be fun. So we're going to discuss arbitrage versus the law of one price. And we'll kind of compare and contrast the two and see kind of the differences between them and when they coincide and things like that. All right, so here's what we'll do. We'll just make a table to sort of organize our thoughts and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a table. All right. It's going to be sort of 2 by 2. Okay. And across here. All right. So here we'll have arbitrage free for AF. And then here we will have not arbitrage free. We'll cross that out. And then here we have the law of one price holding. And then here we'll have the law of one price not holding. All right. Maybe I'll draw that as a red circle. And then I'll do this one in red as well. That's a no. Okay. All right. So the one other thing is just notation wise, I'm going to put a little diagonal through each of these. Okay. And then, over here we're going to describe what happens in the box. So here we're going sort of this way, and in this bottom part we're going this way, and you'll see what I mean. And then here we'll have red is never, and then blue is sometimes, and then green is always. Did I get green? Yeah. Always. Okay. All right, so let's do it. So let's just start in this first quadrant here. And so let's say, all right, if the law of one price holds, is our market arbitrage free? And we'll just hop over to GeoGebra and we'll think about it. We want to know sometimes, always, or never. And we want to fill in this box for sometimes, always, or never. Okay? So I'm going to hop over to GeoGebra. And I'll search for myself, because we already made an activity that will help us with this. Pricing in a one asset market. Okay. So I kind of messed up there. So I think the easiest way to do it is just to click the ellipses and say open an app. All right. It's thinking. Okay. So this is a one asset market, and we're wondering, is this arbitrage free? And so remember, we had a little notation switch here. So this is price, not payoff, okay? So here we have an arbitrage free market and the law of one price hold, right? Because you have to pay some amount today, let's say $1, to get almost $2 tomorrow, right? So here we have the law of one price because we're a linear function, our y-intercept is 0, and the law of one price holds, and we are arbitrage free. But if we move this down here, now we are not arbitrage free. We are in an arbitrage scenario, because someone would pay us $1 today, and then we also get $2 tomorrow. Okay, so the answer to fill into this little box here is blue. So I'm just going to fill these in. So this one should be blue. This is sometimes, right? Okay, so now we've determined that if our market has the law of one price holding, sometimes it's arbitrage free. What does that also tell us? That means it's also sometimes not arbitrage free, right? It's sort of the same question, but on its head, right? So if we are in here, if we are pricing in a one asset market, oh, I did it again, didn't I? I need to hit these ellipses. Open an app. Okay, so again, here we have no arbitrage. here we have arbitrage. So the answer to this one is sometimes. Okay, we'll just fill that in blue. Okay? Okay, so we'll knock a few more out here as well. All right, so let's try to think about what happens right here, okay? So we're wondering, if the law of one price does not hold, can we be arbitrage free? And the answer to that is no. And we'll explain why. So never. Okay? So let's think about why. Let's head back to GeoGebra. And I'm going to look at my activities, Grant Smith. Okay? And then here, the one we'll look at is, let's look at this 2-asset market. I did it again. I think at some point I'd get the hang of it. Okay, so let's click the ellipses. Let's say open an app. Okay? So remember what we're wondering. If the law of one price does not hold, do we ever have a market that's arbitrage free? And let's think here. So this is a perfect example of the law of one price not holding. Remember, so the cash flow in time 1 is 1 for this asset, and it costs us 50 cents today. And this asset gives us $1 in the future, and it costs us $1 today. So 2 assets pay off the same amount later, but they cost a different amount today. Therefore, the law of one price does not hold. And then you remember what we did is we said, okay, well, if we're going to get the same amount in the future, we're going to buy the cheaper one and sell the more expensive one. So we're going to buy V, the cheap one, and then we're going to sell U, the expensive one. So we're going to buy V, so V is positive. We're going to sell U, so U is negative. And we're going to earn ourselves 50 cents today for free. So this is a situation in which the law of one price does not hold. And every time that happens, every time the law of one price does not hold, you can always buy the cheaper one and always sell the more expensive one and always get an arbitrage profit. So that is why the law of one price not holding means you are always, that means you're never arbitrage free. So if this one's all red, then you know this one has to be green, right? Because if you're not in a situation which the law of one price holds, then you're never arbitrage free, which means you're always not arbitrage free. So I know that's a little roundabout, but if you kind of stop and think for a second, it'll probably feel right. Okay. All right, and we can kind of keep going with just this one here. So if you know anything kind of about logic, right? So if we have the law of one price not holding, implies that arbitrage free markets can never happen. Now let's think about, okay, if we have an arbitrage free market, can we ever not have the law of one price? And the answer is no, because right here we just said that these two things never happen together. So if this one means this one can never happen, then if this one happens, we know that this one cannot happen. Otherwise, this would have to be a sometimes as well. So this is also, whoops, I'm going to undo that. This one is, oh, what am I doing? Okay, we got some red here. Let's make sure I do this right. Okay, let's get some red. All right. And then we can also fill this one in, right? Okay, why? So if the law of one price not holding implies that we are never arbitrage free, then if we are arbitrage free, then we know that the law of one price has to hold, right? So this one has got to be green. Right. And I'll explain that one more time. If the law of one price does not hold, we know that we can never have arbitrage, right? It's literally impossible. One way to think about it is it's nice to kind of like do sort of a Venn diagram. All right, so what happens? So if the law of one price does not hold, then arbitrage free cannot happen. So arbitrage free is over here, arbitrage free, right? And then here is the law of one price, anything and that's arbitrage free is not inside this, right? So now if we are inside this one, we know we're not in that one, right? So this right here should have this thing through it, right? Okay. So now if we know we're inside here, we know we cannot be inside this bubble, hence this one is green, okay? All right. That's one more. And if you like logic, we can also kind of do it this way. So actually, I'll get the black out. So if we do law of one price not happening implies that arbitrage free does not happen, right? Now we can flip both signs and flip the sides, right? So now this one does not have a cross through it. We know that that does imply this one not having a cross through it. So that's this green right here. Arbitrage free implies law of one price. If law of one not law of one price implies not arbitrage free. Okay? So that's just another way to think about it as well. All right, almost done there. All right, let's get this big again. Okay. All right, and we are on the final two here, and these will kind of be explained together. So let's look at this one first. So here we have, let's say arbitrage free does not hold. That means there's an arbitrage in the market. Can the law of one price hold? And the answer to that is sometimes. Okay? And we will show why. So basically what we want to do is we want to find an example of both. So we want to find, okay, arbitrage free is not holding, therefore there's an arbitrage. We want to find an example of the law of one price holding and the law of one price not holding. So if this one's a sometimes, we know this is also a sometimes. And we'll see an example of both. Okay. Okie doke. So let's go. Okay, this is one good example, right? So we want, remember, we're looking at arbitrage free not holding. So we're looking at an arbitrage situation. This is an arbitrage situation. So this is what we're talking about. And the law of one price does not hold, right? This was our example of the law of one price not holding, right? So same payoff in the future, different price today, okay? So we just proved that something exists here, right? Something exists at least there. We also need to prove that something exists up there as well. So let's do that. Let's go back to GeoGebra. Let's search for Grant Smith. Okay. And here you might already know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to say, right now, if we move this down, we are now in an arbitrage scenario, so we are not arbitrage free. So we are in our state that we want. We're one of these two. Okay. And here, the law of one price does hold, right? So we've proved a perfect example of this one being blue as well, right? Okay, so that about wraps up discussing when arbitrage free, arbitrage, law of one price, not law of one price, when they all hold. So I hope you all liked it, and thanks a lot for watching.